The Vegas internship had finally wrapped. 10 weeks of endless overtime, brutal presentations, and a final pitch that secured me a permanent job offer at the top consulting firm in New York. I should have felt unstoppable. I should have been celebrating. Instead, all I could think about on the flight home was seeing the thing I'd worked for since I was 16, the matte blue Mustang GT waiting safely in my parents' garage. My dream car. My proof that every sacrifice had been worth it. As my Uber pulled into the driveway, the suburban neighborhood glowed in the last light of day. I noticed the fresh coat of paint on the shutters, the perfectly trimmed hedges Dad finally got around to fixing. Home looked unchanged. Safe. Familiar. Dragging my carry-on behind me, I thumbed the garage opener. The door lifted with its usual mechanical whir. And then my heart plummeted. The garage was empty. No Mustang. No glossy blue shimmer catching the sunset. Just Dad's tools, Mom's gardening bins, and the oil stains marking where my car had been. My chest hollowed out. The suitcase slipped from my hand, crashing to the concrete. I stormed inside, pulse thundering in my ears. The kitchen smelled of Mom's lasagna, like it always did when she was nervous. At the oak table, they sat waiting Mom, Dad, and my younger sister Haley. 3 faces lined with guilt, like some twisted intervention. Where is it? My voice cracked. Where's my car? Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom's voice was coated in syrup, the kind she used when she thought soft tones could make betrayal taste sweet. Ethan, honey, don't overreact. Don't overreact? My fists curled. Tell me where it is. Haley straightened, shoulders squared like she was stepping onto a stage. Confidence painted over panic. It's temporary, Ethan. I'll pay it back. My blood went cold. Pay what back? Mom sighed, eyes flicking toward Dad. He swallowed hard. We pawned it. Cornerstone Pawn gave us 48 grand. The room tilted sideways. You did what? It's not a sale, Haley jumped in. Just a loan against the title. My boutique line is going to explode once it launches. I just needed startup capital. I'll pay the pawn shop. You'll get your car back, plus interest. Her words blurred together. All I could see was myself at 17, skipping parties, grinding double shifts at the diner to save every dollar. Me signing away vacations, nicer apartments, nights out, all for that car. Me standing next to Grandpa as he ran his weathered hands along the hood of a cherry red Mustang at a car show, saying, "These aren't just machines, Ethan. They're dreams made real. Someday you'll have one." When I finally bought mine, I cried. Not because it was fast. Not because it turned heads. But because it represented everything I'd worked for. My sacrifices. My discipline. My dream. And now they'd handed it over like a library book. Family helps family, Mom said firmly, as if that ended the discussion. You make good money now. Haley needs this chance. You used my spare key? My title. My voice dropped, low and dangerous. You forged my signature. Dad flinched. Haley pressed forward, desperate. You'll see, Ethan. Once my line takes off, you'll thank me. I laughed. Sharp. Bitter. You committed fraud, and you think I'll thank you? My phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification lit the screen. New lien placed on your vehicle. Alert from insurance provider. The air left my lungs. This wasn't just betrayal. This was theft. This was criminal. You have 30 days, I said, each word like stone. 30 days to get my car back. Or I press charges. Against your own family? Mom gasped. Family doesn't steal from each other. I snatched up my suitcase, the silence behind me thicker than cement. My hand slammed the door hard enough to rattle every family photo on the wall. All those smiling faces felt like lies now. Proof that my dreams had always been disposable in this house. The pawn shop reeked of stale smoke and cheap pine air freshener. A bell jingled overhead as I stepped inside, blazer pulled tight like armor. The man behind the counter, Gordon, his name tag read, slid paperwork toward me with practiced neutrality. Loan amount, $48,000. Standard fees, $3,500. His tone was flat. Routine. To him, my life was just another desperate transaction. My eyes scanned the documents. Finance training snapping into place. This signature, this isn't mine. Ma'am, if you're suggesting. I'm not suggesting, I snapped, shoving my license across the counter. I was in Nevada last week. Compare them. His brow furrowed as he studied. I'll need to get my manager. Please do. And while you're at it, pull the security footage. My voice was ice. My hand shook. 20 minutes later, the truth was undeniable. My parents hadn't just betrayed me. They'd broken the law. My sister hadn't just begged. She'd manipulated them into forgery. Would you like us to call the police now? The manager asked, eyes careful, measured. The word police punched the air from my lungs. Pressing charges meant scorched earth. It meant no going back. I shook my head. Not yet. Outside, I leaned against the sun-warmed brick, stomach churning. My dream wasn't just in jeopardy. It was in someone else's hands, and my family had put it there. I whispered the words Grandpa once told me, barely audible over the traffic roar. Dreams aren't just things you buy. They're proof you matter. And right now, my family had proved I didn't. The first week without my car felt like trying to breathe with half my lungs missing. Every time I glanced at the empty spot in the driveway, it was like salt ground into an open wound. The neighbors noticed too. Mr. Peterson, the retired mechanic across the street, called over one evening while watering his lawn. What happened to that beauty of yours, Ethan? He asked, frowning at the vacant space. My throat tightened. I mumbled something about storage, unwilling to admit the truth that my own parents had sold it, not to pay for an emergency, not to keep the family afloat, but to fund my sister Madison's latest whim. Inside, the silence was louder than any engine roar. Every creak of the floorboards reminded me what had been taken. Mom tried to act normal, humming as she washed dishes, while Dad buried himself in the evening news. Madison floated through the house like nothing had happened, her new SUV parked smugly at the curb. I wanted to scream, but instead I swallowed it, the anger burning a hole in my chest. 2 nights later, Jessica came over. She's been my best friend since middle school, the one person who's seen me through every scraped knee, every failed exam, every heartbreak. When she saw my clenched jaw and restless pacing, she didn't need to ask. "It's gone, isn't it?" she whispered, eyes scanning the driveway. I nodded. She sank onto the couch, pulling her knees to her chest. "Ethan, I don't even know what to say." I sat beside her, the words finally spilling out. How my parents had signed the title without telling me, how they'd justified it as family helping family, how Madison hadn't even said thank you. Jessica's eyes hardened. That car wasn't just metal, Ethan. It was years of your sweat and sacrifice. They didn't just sell a vehicle. They sold your trust. Her words landed heavier than any lecture. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen was the only sound between us. Later that week, the first cracks in Madison's perfect world appeared. I overheard her arguing with Mom in the kitchen. "What do you mean the insurance premium is higher than we expected?" Madison's voice was sharp, laced with entitlement. Mom tried to soothe her, but Madison wasn't listening. "I told you I needed this SUV, Mom. Needed it. Don't start guilt-tripping me about costs now." I lingered in the hallway, bitterness rising in my throat. She didn't even see the irony. The SUV she was complaining about came at the cost of my dream. By Saturday, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove Jessica's old Honda to the pawn shop where I'd last seen my Challenger. It sat behind the chain-link fence, dust gathering on the hood, a silent prisoner waiting for freedom. My chest ached as I pressed my hand to the metal links. "Don't worry," I whispered, as if the car could hear me. "I'll get you back." The pawnbroker, a grizzled man with gray hair and a poker face, came outside. Looking at the Challenger, he asked. I nodded, forcing my voice steady. "It's mine." Or it was. My parents sold it. His eyebrows rose slightly, but his tone stayed neutral. "Happens more than you'd think. You want it back, it'll cost you what they borrowed. Plus interest." I swallowed hard. "How much?" He scribbled a number on a slip of paper and handed it to me. $42,500. The figure blurred as my vision swam. Nearly every dollar I had saved, plus more than I could dream of pulling together quickly. Still, I folded the paper and tucked it into my wallet. I'll be back, I promised. That night, lying awake in bed, I realized this wasn't just about the car. It was about respect. About showing my family I wasn't disposable. That my sacrifices had value. If Madison wanted to live in luxury, fine, but not at my expense. Over dinner Sunday night, I broke the silence. I saw the Challenger yesterday. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Dad cleared his throat. Ethan, don't, I cut him off. My voice shook, but I didn't care. You had no right. That car was mine. Mine. You didn't just sell metal and wheels, you sold my years of hard work, my pride. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We were just trying to help Madison. At my expense, I snapped. Always at my expense. Do you realize how long I worked for that car? How many nights I skipped out with friends? How many extra shifts I took just to make it happen? Madison scoffed, rolling her eyes. You're being dramatic. It's just a car. The words hit like a slap. Just a car. The same phrase Grandpa used to say, but when he said it, he meant it as wisdom, not dismissal. I clenched my fists under the table, fighting the urge to shout. You'll see, I said finally, my voice low and even. Every cent of that money? You're going to pay it back, Madison. One way or another. Her laughter rang hollow. Good luck with that. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something stir inside me. Not despair. Not grief. Determination. The kind that doesn't fade when people mock you. The kind that grows stronger the more others doubt you. That night, I sketched out a plan. Not just to reclaim my Challenger, but to teach Madison and my parents that respect isn't optional. It's earned. And I was done being their sacrifice. Jessica texted me past midnight. Still awake? Yeah, I typed back. Planning. Planning what? She asked. To get back what's mine. The dots blinked for a long time before her reply came. Then I'm in. I stared at her message, a spark of hope igniting in the ashes of betrayal. Maybe this fight wasn't just mine after all. Day 10. Madison has gone completely silent, barricaded in her apartment, ignoring texts and calls. Ethan stares blankly at the glowing numbers on his computer screen, his office at Westbrook Capital suddenly feeling like a prison cell. The Frankfurt acquisition documents blur before his eyes. 6 months of negotiations, of blood and sweat, and now his career might be slipping through his fingers because he can't focus. His mind keeps circling back to the same image, the empty space in his parents' garage where his Challenger should be. The desk phone rings. It's his boss, Director Palmer. Ethan, I need those final projections by 4. You look exhausted. Everything okay at home? Ethan forces a practiced, professional tone into his voice. Everything's fine. You'll have those projections within the hour. The lie tastes bitter. Nothing is fine. When Sunday arrives, Ethan doesn't even park in the driveway. He pulls the rental to the curb like a stranger, not a son coming home. The familiar smell of pot roast, his mother's peace offering, hits him as he walks through the door. His father is already at the table, shoulders slumped, staring at the tablecloth as if it might offer absolution. His mother fusses with the china plates, the good ones normally reserved for Christmas or funerals. Madison shows up late, hiding behind oversized sunglasses, her confident stride replaced with something smaller, slower. Let's eat while it's hot, Mom says too brightly, dishing food onto Dad's plate first, as she always has. Silence hangs thick. The scrape of forks against porcelain sounds like thunder in the stillness. Ethan cuts his meat into precise squares, each slice calculated, controlled, the only thing keeping him from screaming. Finally, Mom breaks. Madison's having a difficult time with her business, she says softly, patting her daughter's hand. Everyone fails sometimes. Ethan sets his fork down with care. This isn't about failure, he says flatly. It's about theft. His father finally speaks, voice quiet, almost pleading. We thought we were helping. We wanted Madison to have her chance. At my expense, Ethan snaps. You didn't just take a car. You took everything it represented. Mom tries again, voice rising. Honey, it's just a vehicle. It was 6 years of overtime and missed vacations. It was Grandpa's legacy. It was the one thing I had that proved all my sacrifices meant something. And you took it like it meant nothing. The doorbell rings. Relief flashes across Mom's face, an interruption, a way out. Dad rises slowly, returning with Uncle Robert in tow. Ethan's father's older brother, Robert, fills the doorway with his broad shoulders and trademark scowl. What the hell were you thinking, Gerald? Robert growls before even sitting down. His eyes find Ethan across the room. He called me. Mom stiffens. This is a family matter, Robert. Exactly why I'm here, Robert shoots back. He pulls out a chair beside Ethan. Someone needs to speak for the member of this family you're throwing under the bus. Dad's face reddens. Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. Ethan cuts in. His hand closes on the leather briefcase beside his chair. He pulls out a folder, lays it on the table with deliberate calm. We need to talk about what happens next. He spreads 3 documents across the oak table. The vehicle title, fraud statutes, pawn shop regulations. The papers land like grenades. This is a felony, Ethan says coolly, tapping the statute page. Title fraud. I could send you both to jail. Mom's face drains of color. You wouldn't. Ethan's voice softens, but the steel remains. I don't want to, but you need to understand what you've done. Dad stares at the papers, the reality sinking in for the first time. Prison time, he whispers. 2 to 5 years, Ethan answers clinically. Plus restitution. Mom breaks into raw, ugly sobs, the kind that shake her shoulders and tear her voice apart. Dad grips her trembling hand, his own eyes wet. What have we done to you? To us, he murmurs. For the first time since this nightmare began, Ethan sees it real remorse. Not just regret for being caught. Madison pulls off her sunglasses, revealing red, swollen eyes. Her voice cracks. This is my fault. I pushed them. I told them it was temporary, that you'd understand once my business took off. She stares at her manicured nails. I never thought it would fall apart so fast. Uncle Robert leans forward, voice rough. So what's the plan? Because that pawn shop won't wait forever. 25 days, Ethan says. Then they auction the car. Mom dabs her eyes. What can we do? Ethan pulls out a calculator, his finance training kicking in like second nature. We need resources. All of them. The next hour turns into a desperate audit of the family's financial lives. Dad thinks he can get a home equity line of credit for $30,000, but it will take 2 weeks to process. Madison agrees to sell her BMW and empty her savings account, maybe $12,000 total. Ethan reluctantly offers $6,000 from his emergency fund. Uncle Robert watches quietly, then sighs. I'll loan you $5,000. But only because Ethan shouldn't have to carry this alone. The math doesn't lie. Even pooling everything, they're short. And worse, the pawn shop requires an immediate deposit of $15,000 just to freeze the auction clock. I'll call tomorrow, Dad says finally, voice steadier than it has been in weeks. See if they'll work with us on the timeline. When Ethan leaves, the weight on his chest hasn't lifted, but something has shifted. The betrayal is still raw, but now finally, there's a path forward. Difficult, uncertain, but visible. Back at his apartment, he sits on the edge of his bed, staring at a framed photo in his hands. His grandfather, smiling wide beside a gleaming black Challenger, one arm around 12-year-old Ethan. The summer light glints off chrome in Ethan's memory. His grandfather's words echo like a sermon. Cars are just metal and chrome, Ethan boy. It's what they represent that matters. For the first time, Ethan finally understands. This fight isn't just about the Challenger. It's about demanding the respect he has earned. It's about teaching his family that his dreams matter too. That night, Ethan dials his parents. His father picks up on the first ring. I'll help, Ethan says, his voice steady. But things will never be the same. The silence stretches, heavy with years of choices that can't be undone. I know, Dad whispers. We'll make this right. I promise. Ethan ends the call without goodbye. Words mean little now. Action is all that counts. The very next day, Madison stands in a downtown boutique, her hands trembling over a row of Hermes scarves. Her pride, her trophies. One by one, she lays them across the counter, the silk whispering against glass. The shop owner lifts a single eyebrow, inspecting each piece with clinical detachment. "I can offer $8,000 for the lot," she says at last. Madison swallows hard. $15,000, maybe more. She once spent building this collection. But the pawnshop's deadline looms larger than her pride. "Done," she whispers, watching her past life vanish into a check that feels much too small. Across town, Ethan's father steps into the warehouse manager's office, hat clutched in his hands. "Night shift?" the manager asks, eyes wide. "Gerald, you haven't worked nights in 20 years. Gerald eases into the chair, his knees aching from arthritis. "Just temporarily. I need the differential pay." The manager studies him for a long moment, reading the exhaustion carved into every line of his face. "This about that car mess your brother mentioned?" Gerald doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. "Starting Monday then," the manager sighs, sliding the paperwork across the desk. "Hope it's worth it." Meanwhile, Ethan's mother stands at the dining room table, carefully wrapping her grandmother's silver candlesticks in tissue. They've graced holiday dinners for half a century. She adds the pearl necklace Gerald gave her on their 25th anniversary, hands shaking with each item placed into the box. At Fletcher's Pawn, the broker doesn't even look up as he counts. 3,000. Her voice cracks as she nods. Ethan's own sacrifices are quieter, hidden. Extra clients, sleepless nights, skipped meals. His Frankfurt expansion files multiply across his desk, but so do side contracts he shouldn't have to take. His performance bonus, once meant for his future, now stands between redemption and ruin. On his desk, the deposit receipt from Cornerstone Pawn stares back at him. Proof of their first $15,000 payment. A small victory, but the Hellick approval letter in his parents' mailbox delays their relief, pending property assessment. Jessica leans against the edge of Ethan's cubicle, cartons of Thai food balanced in her hands. "They're making progress," she says. "That's something." Ethan shakes his head. "It's never enough." Jessica hesitates, then adds, "Your sister called me." Ethan looks up sharply. "She called you. She wanted to know if Westbrook had any entry-level positions." "I didn't expect it either." Later that week, Ethan spots Madison across the food court. She's barely recognizable, plain black slacks, a simple white blouse. No designer heels, no glittering jewelry. She shifts nervously outside Nordstrom's employee entrance, clutching a paper bag with her lunch. Her first real job. That night, Ethan's phone buzzes. Madison's voice on the line is small, trembling. "I had no idea," she whispers. 8 hours on my feet, smiling at people who treat me like furniture. "And you've been working 70-hour weeks for years." Ethan leans against his kitchen counter, silent. "All those times I called you boring for skipping parties." Madison's voice cracks. "You weren't boring. You were responsible." 3 days later, they meet at the coffee shop halfway between their apartments. Madison orders plain coffee, no complicated drinks, no extras. Her makeup is subtle, her nails clipped short. She doesn't wait for pleasantries. "I was entitled. I was selfish. I'm so sorry, Ethan. Not just for the car. For everything." Ethan cups his mug, the warmth steadying his hands. "Pretty words, Mads." "I know," she admits. "I study. That's why I'm showing you with actions now." Meanwhile, at the family house, Gerald spreads bank statements across the kitchen table. Numbers swim before his tired eyes, refusing to balance. His wife appears in the doorway, clutching a stack of loan applications. "Did you know about these?" she asks softly. She sets the stack down. Credit cards. Personal loans. Buy now, pay later accounts. Madison's signature on every line. Nearly $80,000 in hidden debt. Gerald's face crumples. "We had no idea." The next morning, the two of them sit across from Mr. Winters at the credit union, the same man who guided their finances for 20 years. This helic will delay your retirement by at least 5 years, Winters says gently. And that's assuming no other surprises. Ethan's mom stares down at her hands, her wedding ring sliding loose on her thinner fingers. That evening, Ethan stops by to drop off his portion of the week's payment. For once, his mom isn't hovering. It's just Gerald, sitting on the porch steps. He doesn't look up at first, just twists his calloused hands together. Finally, his voice breaks the silence. We failed you long before we took that car. Ethan sits beside him, the wood creaking beneath them. All those years, Gerald says, we praised Madison's dreams while dismissing yours. You never asked for much, so we assumed you didn't need much. His jaw tightens. We were wrong. The Sunday sky glows gold as they sit side by side, saying nothing more. Relief turns to panic a week later when Cornerstone Pawn calls. Another buyer has offered cash for the Challenger. We just need 2 more days, Gerald pleads into the phone. Business is business, the pawnbroker replies. First money here gets the car. The next 36 hours blur. Madison empties the last of her savings. Mom sells her diamond earrings. Ethan maxes out his emergency credit line. Still, they're $3,000 short. It's not enough, Mom whispers as they sit around the kitchen table, the clock ticking toward tomorrow's noon deadline. The doorbell rings. Uncle Robert stands on the porch, checkbook in hand. Family helps family, he says. The same words Ethan's mother once used, only now they carry a different weight. The next morning, the family crowds into the bank, watching the digital clock tick toward noon as the wire transfer processes. Dad's hand trembles as he signs the authorization. At 11:42, the confirmation appears. Payment received. At 11:42 a.m., the bank screen flashes the words Ethan has been waiting weeks to see. Payment received. For the first time in a month, the entire family exhales. The morning sun throws streaks of gold across the lot of Cornerstone Pawn. Ethan grips the payment receipt so tightly it's crumpled in his hand. The pawnbroker looks up as he pushes through the glass door. Recognition flickers across the man's face. Mr. Walker, he says smoothly, sliding a folder across the counter. Here for your vehicle? Ethan only nods, his throat too tight to answer. His signature shakes as he scrawls it across the line, the pen trembling between his fingers. The broker counts the check twice before handing over the title and keys. All square. Ethan barely hears him. Cold metal settles into his palm, the familiar weight of the Challenger's keys. His hand shakes so badly he almost drops them. Outside, the Challenger gleams as if she's been waiting for him. Ethan's fingers trace the glossy black paint, searching for scratches, for evidence of abuse. The chrome trim throws sunlight into his eyes. They detailed it yesterday, the broker calls from behind. Policy before return. Ethan doesn't answer. This moment should feel triumphant. But instead, it's hollow, victory soured by betrayal. His grandfather's voice whispers in memory. Cars are just metal and chrome. It's what they represent that matters. The engine rumbles to life beneath him, deep and familiar, vibrating through the seat and into his bones. Tears blur his vision as he pulls away, each mile from the pawn shop unspooling a month's worth of rage and grief. By the time he reaches his apartment, his cheeks are wet, mascara black rivers streaking his shirt collar. But the Challenger is home. 3 days later, a text lights up his phone. Mom, Sunday dinner? 5 p.m. Your father's grilling steaks. Please come. The message lands like a stone in Ethan's gut. He considers ignoring it, but instead, he types a simple reply, I'll be there. Sunday arrives warm and clear. The Challenger's engine announces him before he even turns into the driveway. His father freezes mid-flip at the grill, spatula poised. His mother wrings a dish towel between her hands in the doorway. Dinner is thick with silence, broken only by clinking silverware and perfunctory comments about the weather. Madison pushes food around her plate, eyes fixed on the table. Finally, Gerald clears his throat. He sets his fork down with deliberate care. Ethan, he says formally as if speaking in court. I've prepared something. From his pocket, he pulls a folded sheet of paper, hands shaking. His voice wavers as he reads. I betrayed your trust. I violated your rights. I failed in my duty as your father to protect what matters to you. Each line sounds rehearsed, but his eyes lift often, searching Ethan's face. Ethan's mother reaches across the table, tears spilling freely. Please forgive us. We were wrong, so terribly wrong. Madison sits up straighter, pulling out a small notebook. Her voice trembles, but her eyes don't waver. I've been working at Macy's for 3 weeks now. I've built a budget plan to pay back my share. Every penny. It will take time, but I'll do it. They watch Ethan, three faces tight with hope, fear, and desperation. Ethan sets his napkin down slowly. His voice is steady. Healing takes time. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. Relief loosens the tension in the room. No smiles, just the quiet acknowledgement that this isn't forgiveness yet. It's the willingness to try. 2 days later, Ethan sits across from attorney Rachel Holman. Her office smells of leather and ink, law books lining the shelves. You have a solid criminal case, she says, tapping the forged title documents. Identity theft, fraud. Your parents could face real consequences. Ethan stares at the family photo on her desk. 3 generations in matching sweaters. Smiles too perfect to be real. What's my other option? Rachel leans back. A legally binding repayment agreement. No criminal charges. Every cent repaid with interest. Ethan exhales slowly. Draw it up. The following Sunday, the family gathers again. Uncle Robert sits at Ethan's side, steady as a sentinel, while Ethan lays out the contracts. Monthly payments for 2 years. With interest, he explains. His voice doesn't shake. Gerald signs first, his hand trembling, but his gaze steady. We'll honor this, son. Every term. The power shift is undeniable. For the first time, Ethan's boundaries aren't just words. They're written in black and white, enforceable by law. Later, as Uncle Robert walks him out, Ethan admits, I never wanted this kind of authority over them. Robert pats his shoulder. Sometimes respect has to be enforced before it's freely given. At the extended family reunion the following month, whispers swirl like smoke. Aunt Patricia corners Ethan near the potato salad, wine glass in hand. Everyone makes mistakes, dear. You've made your point. Time to let it go. Uncle Robert appears beside Ethan, firm as oak. They need to own what they did, Patricia. No minimizing. The backyard falls quiet as Madison steps forward. Her voice shakes, but her shoulders stay squared. I manipulated Mom and Dad. I played on their favoritism, but they chose to betray Ethan. We're all accountable. Gasps ripple through the family. Patricia's mouth snaps shut. Cousin Mark gives Ethan a slow, respectful nod. Something shifts, a decades-old pattern breaking at last. Weeks later, Ethan changes the garage code at his parents' house. He installs a security system in the Challenger, the blinking black box under the dash like a sentinel. Leave us a spare key, his mom asks, voice tentative. In case of emergency? Ethan holds her gaze until her eyes widen with realization. No, I won't. She nods, lips pressed tight, but says nothing. Some boundaries don't need explanation. 1 year later, the Challenger hums along a winding mountain road, the Rockies unfolding in golden morning light. Ethan downshifts into a curve, the engine growling beneath him, power thrumming through the wheel into his bones. You were right, Grandpa, he murmurs, patting the dashboard. Some dreams cost more than money. At the overlook, he kills the engine and steps out. The valley stretches below, endless and alive. He remembers placing flowers at his grandfather's grave, a framed photo of boyhood Ethan and the Challenger leaning against the stone. I understand now, he'd whispered then. Dreams need protecting. Now he teaches the same lesson. Every Saturday, 20 young women gather in his volunteer finance class, learning boundaries, respect, and the strength to protect what's theirs. Last month, a girl named Melissa lingered after class, eyes wide as she admired the Challenger. My dad used to fix old cars, she said softly. Before the divorce, My mom sold his tools to pay for my sister's dance lessons. Ethan had handed her the keys. "Sit in it," he'd said. Her face lit up as she slid behind the wheel, gripping the leather like it held the world. "Dreams need protecting," Ethan told her. "And so do you." Back on the mountain road, Ethan accelerates, the wind rushing in through open windows. The fantasy of perfect family harmony is gone. What's left is better relationships built on respect, not expectation. The Challenger roars, the highway stretching wide and open. For the first time since he was 9, watching his grandfather's hands on an engine, Ethan isn't just protecting his dream. He's living it.